It's the Jack and Nick Horror Show.
Hi.
Hi, Jack.
Hi.
Howdy.
How's it going?
It's going great. You want to know who I am?
I do. Are you Nick?
I'm Nick. My name is on the marquee.
Hi. Welcome to the Jack and Nick Horror Show. We are Shining tonight, where the movie of the week is The Shining. And what else do we have, Nick?
I don't remember. Oh, yeah, we're going to be talking about, we've got new segments coming up. First off, one called Amazon All-Stars, which is going to be a trip to the dark side of Amazon with regards to The Shining and what you can find on there. Oh, geez. It's so weird what people have to say about that film. And then we're going to play with the idea of The Shining a little bit, because it is kind of a polarizing movie at times, it appears. Most people think it's a classic, and if you don't think it's a classic, you might hate it. So maybe you need it remade in a new way, in a new fun way, not the way the Sci-Fi Channel remade it, some other way.
Right.
And we're gonna come up with some remixes of the movie, and new segment we're calling Horror Movie Remix, I think.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
And what'll happen with that? I mean, we'll explain it more, but we're both going to give you our own versions of The Shining, and then you get to decide. And then there's going to be more where it's going to be an interactive thing. So we'll explain that later.
We didn't have any interactive thing this week, but I'm sorry. I know we had people asking for it online, and I totally appreciate that you want to jump in and help us out. But stay tuned, because we're going to give out the instructions for next week.
Right, and we do like to change things up on the show, because the show's going to completely transform as it progresses. Hopefully.
At any rate, though, please share, like, and subscribe our stuff, whether you're watching this video on YouTube, whether you're watching or listening to us on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever. Just let people know about us and help us out.
Thank you very much. And coming up next, our movie of the week. The Shining, 1980, directed by Stanley Kubrick, based on a novel by one Stephen King. You have a cast of Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, Danny Lloyd, and everybody's favorite Smiler, Scatman Crothers.
Mm-hmm. And we're pretty much going to be going over this whole movie. So, I mean, you had 40 years to see it. I don't think we're really going to spoil too much per se, but if we do, blame yourself.
Yes.
That was dark.
It was. Basic synopsis from, we'll just go with IMDb this week. A family heads to an isolated hotel for the winter, where an evil and spiritual presence influences the father into violence, while his psychic son sees horrific forebodings from the past and of the future. You know,
even that synopsis doesn't really quite capture the essence of the movie, does it?
No, it really doesn't. So The Shining, this is a pretty popular movie, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Well regarded.
Yeah, well regarded now, but not when it came out.
Oh, one of the most fascinating things about The Shining is that when it came out, it was just like panned by critics. And I mean, it totally fascinates me, because I say this a lot about horror movies that come out now. Everybody hates everything that comes out now. But 10, 15 years from now, people are going to look back and go, oh man, that movie's a classic about the shit that you hate, basically.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the funny things about this, there was an interview with Stephen King, because he was on set, and you know, he in the interview he had said that, you know, he's really excited about the film, but he's noticed there have been some changes, and you know, he's cool with the changes. Then as it progresses, he's not so cool with the changes. You know, and it's pretty well known that he said that he really did like the way that Kubrick directed the movie, but he said it's like style over substance or something of that nature. Like there's no heart to it,
Right.
and it's like an engine that is running without a something, or I don't know what the fuck his things were, but
Well, it's really self-indulgent in a wonderful way.
it is.
And I tend to love movies when they're really self-indulgent and just when there is a lot of style over substance. I kind of really enjoy that sort of thing. I mean, just in my own personal experience with the movie, I never read the book. You've read the book, right?
No, I have not.
Oh, you haven't? Oh, so we're both clueless idiots. Great. Great show. Thanks.
Thank you for listening, everybody. Tune in next week, please.
When I first saw The Shining, I was in college, and I was afraid it was going to be too much of a pretentious mess for me, because the Kubrick films I had seen up to that point were 2001, which I hated a lot, and I loved Clockwork Orange a lot. And also, actually, this was after I had seen Eyes Wide Shut, which I was pretty well. I felt pretty good about. I wouldn't say I loved it, but so I didn't know what to expect. And despite my apprehensions, I really enjoyed this movie, and I still enjoy it to this day. I wouldn't say I completely love it. It's definitely not my favorite movie, and it's certainly not one that almost anyone could sit down and watch it all the time. You know what I mean? You have to be in the mood for a long, sort of very slowly paced movie. And I don't even know how long it is. It probably isn't actually as long as I imagine it to be, because it just feels very long when you watch it. Like
it's almost 2.5 hours. But go on.
Right. Well, if you just had some pain medication, you may want to hold off until you're a little bit more spry, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, my past with The Shining is I just remember seeing the paperback cover of the movie poster, the yellow one, with the face and the letter T and a little bit of the H. I just remember seeing that, and I thought that was terrifying, being a little kid. I mean, this is 1980. I was 5. I just remember that vividly. I also remember the pig's head in Motel Hell on the cover of Fangoria. That freaked me out, too. But
possible future episode.
Possible, yeah. The Shining, though, I just wasn't allowed to watch it, and my parents watched it because my mom had a fascination with Jack Nicholson, and the only thing I knew of The Shining a few years later was the Here's Johnny thing, because everybody watched The Tonight Show back then. That was the thing, So years later, my brother and I were being babysat, where my brother was old enough to babysit me, but my parents thought it was a good idea to have a babysitter, and my brother just flirted with the babysitter all night. And we watched The Shining, and I don't remember much about it at all, because I was kind of terrified, and I was like playing with toys or something. And the only thing I remember is where Scatman Crowther just gets the axe to his body, and she was freaking out. I was freaking out. My brother was laughing and loving every second of it, because she clung to my brother. And that was my past with The Shining until years later, when I actually sat down and rented the tape and watched it, and then got the DVD and the other DVD and the other no, I'm kidding. There's only one DVD that I ever had of The Shining, and yeah, you're right. It's not one that I tend to watch too much, because it is a slow pace, but it's one of those movies that really, I would say, from the opening credits alone, it makes you feel dread. And you just know you're embarking into this movie where you are going to be fucked.
Right. It's very unsettling right from the start.
Yeah.
It puts you in a far off place. I mean, obviously, right at the beginning of the movie, if you've seen The Shining, and I hope you have, if you've made it, 10 minutes into our episode here, when they're driving out there, I mean, obviously, it creates this feeling of isolation right off the bat. And I mean, that's so much of what this movie's about, and sort of what it becomes about metaphorically too, about like a metaphorical isolation, a helplessness, Because
right.
I mean, I'm the movie is kind of about abuse in weird ways. Um, metaphorical abuse, and like everything on the surface seems like they're a nice family in the beginning, but then as you learn more about them, you see that there's weird stuff going on. Clearly, to the point where maybe they should have had that little boy checked out when he started talking about the man who lived in his mouth.
Yeah.
Maybe you shouldn't have been such hippie parents. Maybe you shouldn't have drank or hit him or whatever it was that you did. And I mean, I say whatever it was that you did because there are a lot of blanks that are not filled in by this movie, which is fine with me personally. I mean, because I think like leaving stuff out like that is a lot. I mean, it lets you sort of project your own understanding onto the film, and I think it's a fascinatingly like almost a collaborative movie, which you can find this in a lot of other movies where there's surreal stuff happening, stuff isn't always explained, and you have to interpret it as you watch it. That's great fun. For me, it is, at least.
Yeah, it is for me as well. I mean, if you have too much stuff explained, especially, Kubrick's not really known for explaining too much.
Right.
And the way things happen in this, like, he just took the ball and ran with it. As far as his adaptation of the book. And I think that, in a way, I enjoy Stephen King's work. I think that I've gotten blasted for this before about Christine, but I think that Kubrick did his own version of The Shining, and I think he did a fantastic job, where he turned it more, even though I haven't read the book, mind you, I will, don't worry. But I just have that feeling because my judgment is based on the TV movie that Stephen King had a lot to do with, because he said that's the version of The Shining that he expected the movie to be.
With regards to it being kind of an adaptation that really strays from the source material, I could see how that would piss off anybody who really likes the original. Because, I mean, hell, the other day the Preacher trailer came out, and if you're wondering how I feel about the Preacher trailer, I think it looks like balls. Balls! And, I mean, that's just the trailer. Maybe the show will be great. I don't think it's going to be great. I saw pictures of Arseface, and he looks stupid. Go Google it. Anyway, when stuff strays from the source material and you're a big fanboy of it, it's difficult to deal with. Sometimes there is a beauty to it. I'm trying to think of a good example, but I can't really.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
There's what? No.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, you mean the remake?
It's not based. It's not based on a book.
But you know what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, Christine is a prime example.
Yeah.
Of like another Stephen King, a lot of Stephen King books that were turned into movies, which John Carpenter doesn't think is one of his best movies. I think he said it's his worst movie, but that's one that I have read. I've read both the book and seen the movie, and I've always loved it. I saw the movie first, and when you compare the two, they're very different. Like, they're both the same, but they're also very different. And Carpenter's Christine is more of a condensed version with its own spin, where the car is alive, and it's just about possession of Arnie. The book is like that as well, but it becomes more of. It's very hard to describe. I don't want to spoil the book, but it's just there's too much going on, and it's too unbelievable. Like, it's. The movie actually feels a lot more grounded. And the funny thing is that this is the reversal of that, where I understand that the book is more grounded than Kubrick's movie.
Right.
So
and I think it was just a matter of he wanted to tell the story that he wanted to tell and just went for it. And I mean, I guess he kept the setting and the characters, and that was it. And the plot in this movie is so simple, but also really complex and ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because on the surface, it's family goes out to the hotel. They're watching over the hotel for the winter season. Within weeks, the father goes crazy, and then like tries to kill the mother and son. But then,
And the way, real quick, when it's presented to Jack in it, when the hotel manager says, you sure you want this job and all that, and he goes, well, it's had a little bit of a past problem,
right?
And he's like, father chopped up his little daughters and his wife with an axe. It's like, could you be a little bit more blunt with it?
Right. Oh man, and man, when you look at it like that, just that description that I gave of this movie, and even the little stuff we're talking about, doesn't scratch the surface of all the stuff that happens in this movie, because so much of it is about having, surreal visions and phantasmagoric images flashing upon the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Like when the boy, whose name I always forget,
Danny,
he's brushing his teeth, and he has just this ridiculous 1970s style phantasmagoric rush of images, and it's just his face with his mouth open real wide and stuff. Oh man. And it's like, where does that fit into all of this? What is all that? You know what I mean?
Right.
But I mean, everything that's happening kind of hints at a greater picture of possible mental illness or abuse or something. And the movie doesn't spell it out for you, so it allows you to sort of infer whatever the hell you want.
Right. This movie is filled with, it's totally open to interpretation of what you think is going on.
Right, and in that way you kind of make the horror yourself, which is what really makes this movie unique, to me at least.
Right.
I mean, as you'll see when we talk about some of the stuff that people have said on Amazon about this movie, my God, you'll see that that's pretty much one of the main complaints, is that A, it doesn't stick to the book, and B, it kind of makes no sense if you have no imagination. And I mean, I'm not saying that, well, no, I mean, I guess that was kind of insulting, but what I'm saying is, just fill in the blanks.
It's like the Mad Libs of horror.
Right. And of course, some people, now, I can't watch this movie without thinking of the documentary Tombs. What is it? Rooms 237. That's what it is.
Room 237.
Some people have overactive imaginations, and that might be a movie that you haven't seen yet. But it's a documentary that came out last year. It was on Netflix. I think it might still be on there, or I might be wrong. I don't care. Go look it up. Room 237. Basically, it's an incredibly weird collection of conspiracy theories that people have about this movie. One person thinks that this movie is Stanley Kubrick's confession that he faked the Apollo moon landing video, and that he hid all sorts of clues in here about how he faked the moon landing. Another person thinks that this movie's about the slaughter of the Native Americans by the white man, and crazy stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. And there's another person who just my favorite is this woman on there who has completely plausible ideas that when she actually puts them out there at first, you're like, oh, this is exactly right. Her theory was the impossible windows theory, which people have caught on to, that yeah, this is totally true. Basically, if you follow where the characters walk through the hotel in the initial scenes in the first act, where they walk from one room to another, and then they're in an office and they're talking, the scene that Jack was just talking about, where they're in an office talking about do you want this job? Are you sure? Blah, blah, blah. There's a window that's behind the guy, and they drew a map, and they were they take a right turn here and a right turn there and a right turn here, and that window on the back of this office couldn't possibly exist because it would be facing the inside of the hotel. And stuff like that totally seems plausible, because in Stanley Kubrick's movies, he did stuff like that to disorient the viewer all the time. For instance, in A Clockwork Orange, the scene where they're having breakfast, what's his name? Alex? Is that the main character? I always forget name.
I think so. Yeah, that's okay.
He's eating with his parents at breakfast, mm-hmm. and Stanley Kubrick deliberately changed the amount of food on the plates and the amount of like drink in the glass, just so that it would disorient the viewer. Which is like kind of funny because people have picked up on that all the time. Like, oh, look at the breakfast that guy's eating. The first his plate's full, and then in the next shot it's empty, and then in the next shot it's full again.
Right.
And he did that sort of thing on purpose just to disorient you. Just like with Jack Torrance first being introduced to the hotel, there are windows in offices that make no sense. There couldn't possibly be a window there. They actually had to put in a window and light it for what purpose? You know what I mean?
Right.
And
well, I mean, it's even like the opening shot itself is very unnerving, unsettling, and it bothers you. It almost remember what's that called? Funny Games. Remember Funny Games where they're driving in the beginning and then they change the channel and then the big name Funny Games comes on with the heavy metal thrash thing,
Yes.
It's sort of like it. I mean, that doesn't even compare to The Shining, to be honest, but
it sets the tone.
But it sets the tone, yeah, and you think that it's gonna stop, but it keeps going, and it's not just that. It's the Wrath, classical song that's playing, along with the voice, the woo, where it's like raising and lowering, and it makes you feel unbalanced right from the get-go.
Right. You're being manipulated the whole time you watch The Shining.
Right.
You, as the viewer, are being manipulated. And that's why these people, like that lady I was just talking about in the documentary, she starts talking about plausible stuff, and then later on she's like, and then if we go into this scene, there's a poster in the back wall of two men skiing, and it's just like Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin on the moon, and it's like, oh, God damn it, here we go. And like when I watch this movie now, The Shining, I'm making jokes about it the whole time to my wife about like, yes, the Indian head on this can of corn, because you can do that and you can kind of infer whatever ridiculous projection you want to.
Right.
Which is kind of like, I mean, obviously it's unintentionally hilarious, but these people take it A+ seriously. Trust me. But I don't know. I mean, there's so much weird stuff in here that it's almost like he left out trails of breadcrumbs, like why when, Danny's going around and he's doing all this stuff, does he have like Apollo stickers on him from the Apollo flight? And there are weird, eagle imagery throughout the movie. There are images of eagles. Is that just because it's a Northwestern motif, or is it because there's some sort of deeper meaning to these eagles? We'll never fucking know because Stanley Kubrick is dead and he didn't tell anybody. But this movie will be, disseminated for the next century because of stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And he didn't leave a diary, which somebody will probably make up in a couple of years that they unearthed it, and then you'll find out that that's a fraud 10 years from there.
The only thing that exists is his wife, who says, no, that's all bullshit.
Right. Which it could be. I mean, it doesn't... The way that Kubrick worked was... it's my understanding that he was very meticulous and kind of psychotic when it came to filming. Especially I know the door scene alone took them, like, a long time. I know they used like 30 or 40 different doors, and I know Jack Nicholson, he tried out for, I think he was like did a lumberjack thing or something like that, and like was able to chop through the door right away, so they got a stronger door so he wouldn't be able to chop right through it. There's so much more, so much I mean, there's so many little tidbits. I mean, there's like a whole gaggle of them on IMDb. I'm not going to regurgitate them, but I mean, just the actors alone. I mean, Jack Nicholson, man, Jesus Christ, the guy is absolutely terrifying in this movie. Like,
right. He brought his real crazy.
Holy shit! Like, and I haven't done it for quite some time, but I tended to write a lot before until it became like cliche to do these days, but that's not the reason I haven't done it. I just haven't had time. But there were times, like, you can identify where he's in his zone and he's trying to think, but he keeps getting interrupted, and he just starts flipping out. You know, with the, you know, whenever you hear this and he starts clicking, it's like, that means leave me. You know, it's that kind of stuff where it taps into realism for people. When, I mean, it doesn't necessarily just have to be writing. It could be like any kind of hobby or any kind of work that you are doing. When you are in your zone and you are stopped, you're going to start losing your shit. Granted, it's the hotel that's making him go crazy.
Right.
And it kind of like has that balance where you have the classical ghost story with possession, but you also have the realism of being secluded with cabin fever. You know, it's got so many elements to it that it's one of those films that you don't really... I mean, just watching it's 2.5 hours of just... You are going down that slope, you know? Like the... it's not like a martyr slope, but it's you're going down that slope of, you know, that shit is going to go bad. And it's funny that... I understand that the Scatman Crothers character, Dick Halloran, like, he lives in the book. And I know that the book and the movie are different. I get that, but you almost expect nobody to survive in this movie. Mm-hmm. And that's where you expect it to go. The only thing I really... And people love the picture of it, and I think it's crazy and stupid looking, is when Nicholson's character is frozen. Where he's got the looking up
and his eyes are rolled up.
Yeah, it is the dumbest visual in this whole movie, in my opinion. Obviously, I'm giving it, but you know what I mean? I just don't think that is... I don't think that could have been, or that should have been the way it went.
Right, because it's goofy.
Yeah, it's just goofy looking. Yeah.
I almost have a similar similar problem with the very last shot of that picture of the 1940 party, right, that shows like Jack Torrance there, and it like zooms out and it shows that he's at the big party that he had sort of envisioned earlier in the movie. Mm-hmm. I have a problem with that because it's like that kind of like... I feel like it was only added to the movie to throw you off of whatever course you thought you were on the whole rest of the movie. Right. So that you could have gone, oh, I get it. And then you see that last shot and you're like, you have to rethink everything that you just thought up. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like it actually pertains to anything. You know what I mean?
No, I don't either. I
think it's a red herring that we're seeing.
Yeah, because he wasn't even dressed that way at the, at the party. So,
right.
Yeah. I mean, there are so many different speculations we can make about this, but it's... The funny thing is, though, whenever you watch the film, or at least whenever I watch the film, I'm exhausted after I'm done watching it. And you need a palate cleanser. Because it has that... I mean, if it were under 2 hours... People would have called this a masterpiece back then, I believe. I would say. Yeah. There are moments, though, that the scenes last really long, and I like the fact that it's 2.5 hours. I like the long scenes because that's the part of the unnerving thing that he was trying to get across in this. And I said across with a T. I apologize. But I really think that it's cool, like even the improvised him throwing a tennis ball. Like you just feel the emptiness in that hotel with just the echo of the tennis ball being thrown. There's so much though that I just love about watching this film, where I don't know, it's kind of hard to describe, but it's that slow burn feeling that you rarely get not just necessarily these days, but that slow burn feeling from the 1970s, let's say, because I mean this was made prior to Rape Before 1980.
Right. It feels like a 70s movie.
It really does. And, that happens a lot in 1980 and 81 movies because they were filmed in the 70s. A lot of them were. It just has that that vibe. I mean, Shelley Duvall, by the way, too. Like, man, I've never felt so bad for somebody in my life, man. That poor woman, and both the actress and the character. Like, it's my understanding that Kubrick wanted to make sure that she felt like shit throughout the whole movie. And he was a dick to her and had the entire cast not feel any sympathy for her so that she would feel like shit. And later on, she has said that is the role of her entire career, her best role. But it's one that she would never want to relive, the making of it again, because it was so taxing and just it drained her. So, I don't know. But
can I just mention something about Shelley Duvall?
Yeah, sure.
I hate looking at her face.
Yeah, I understand. People
he looks like a velociraptor.
People do, man. I do want to mention my cool shots. I got my
sure.
Cool shots. I've already mentioned the opening heli shot. There are tons and tons of, helicopter shots. Mm-hmm. But that one, man, just following the car, going that path with the music, man. It's funny, just the other day, my girlfriend and I watched The Car, and it opens with the same song. So, Peace, let's call it. Also, Blood Flows Red in the Hallway.
Yeah.
That I love, because that was the teaser for The Shining.
Really? I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's just slow motion, the blood coming, and then it says The Shining. And I believe it was the MPAA, they didn't want that to be part of the trailer because they said we can't show blood in a trailer. And Kubrick, it could be rumors, had told them that he lied and said that it was rusty water. It wasn't blood. And so they allowed it. So I just love that shot. I do. And the one thing I love is Scatman's death, man. I love his character, and it's the silence. It's like Texas Chainsaw, the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where it's just silence, and he's walking down a hallway, and then there's Jack. No fucking massive, musical cues and any of that. It's just, oh, there he is. Boom, there's a fucking axe into your chest. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, there's music after and all that, but it's just the silence that happens prior to the death that I really enjoy, and the way that it's shot, where it's a tracking shot down the hallway, and then, oh, there he is. That's something I really loved about it. So, do you have any cool shots yourself, Nick?
Oh, man. How do I even, choose one?
There are so many.
Yeah, I mean, I think going back to that office with the impossible window in it, where a window could not possibly exist, I like the shot of that office because it's claustrophobic and weird, and intentionally so. Like, there's no reason that any director would look at an office that was so tight. Mm-hmm. Like, just look at it when you watch that scene and see that, the walls are, closing in on them. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I mean, every shot in this movie is like a perspective shot, a centered, symmetrical shot. Not every shot, but, most of the shots in this movie. And I mean,
everything had to be perfect with Kubrick, man.
Right.
That man was a perfectionist. Mm-hmm. That's why he died during Eyes Wide Shut, because the motherfucker was filming that thing for 20 years? Tom Cruise was 5 when it started.
I don't know.
Okay.
No, it really was. He worked on it forever.
Yeah.
Not Tom Cruise was 5, but oh man. I also like the shot, and this is totally because of Room 237, when Scatman Carruthers looks at Danny and he's like, "You want some ice cream?" Telepathically
Oh
communicating.
yeah.
Because that's the shot where in the background you see the cans of Tang and the can of the corn with the Indian headdress on it.
Mhm.
And both of those play into the wacky conspiracy theories, but totally different conspiracy theories, both within the same shot. Two people saw that and were like, "Oh, it's about the Indians." And another dude saw the Tang and was like, "Astronauts really like Tang."
Right.
So this is about the moon landing.
Little do they know that Stanley Kubrick is a big fan of Pootie Tang.
What?
No, he wasn't.
That movie came out after he's dead.
No.
No? Yes. Anyway, I think we pretty much talked about everything in The Shining. Do you want to add anything else?
Yeah, I could talk about The Shining all night. How long do you have?
20 minutes.
Okay.
Not really.
One thing not many people that I know have talked about The Shining that I really love about the movie is the setup. Just them being walked around the hotel and shown around. It makes you feel like you're there. Mm-hmm. Like I think it's almost like a setup, almost like Jurassic Park. When they get there and it's like,
Good
let's
comparison.
go.
Yes.
Yeah, let's go to this place, and then here's this, and it's really cool, and it has that that feeling like here's your exposition, and now the movie begins. Mm-hmm. And then your descent into madness is going to continue until it's over.
Right. It's almost more like a prologue than I called it Act 1, but really it feels like a prologue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's all I got. So yeah. A side note too about this. What was that? I think it was back in maybe about 5 years ago. I showed it to my my then girlfriend and her friend. Because they were like, The Shining, I haven't seen The Shining in years, or I've never seen The Shining. And I put it on, watched it. I'm sitting there like close enough to masturbating in my mind whilst watching it. And those two are both looking at their phones and playing around on their laptops. And I'm like, yo, the movie's gonna get good in a second. And they're like, oh, well, it's about time. Like, man, that really bothered me. But I mean, to each their own. I mean, this isn't a movie that people are going to enjoy, and some people are going to love. But I understand where people can be not necessarily bored with it, but they just get impatient and they want something to happen. And I think that if you have patience and you really don't mind waiting for the bang to come, I think this has a worthy payoff. Sans the cross-eyed frozen Jack Nicholson.
Right. I mean, I wouldn't actually recommend this movie. For as much as I enjoy it, I wouldn't recommend it.
It depends on the person, though.
Exactly. It depends. Like, I wouldn't recommend it unless I knew you and I knew your taste and what you were going to think of it.
Right.
Because most people are going to see this and just be like, I say most people, I mean young people today are going to see this and be like, this is just one of those old people movies that old people think is good, and it's not really. Kind of like if we watch a movie from like the 40s, the chances of, someone in their 30s liking a movie from the 40s is not so great. You know what I mean?
I tend to, but
no, a regular person. You're not in your 30s. You're in your 40s.
Yeah, fuck you.
Made you old. All right, fine. In your 30s or 40s, and you take any average person in our age demographic span, whatever, they're not going to like a movie from the 40s. I don't even know of any that I like from the 40s. And I'm probably wrong if I actually thought about it for like 2 seconds. But
I bet you they all like The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, all right. So The Wizard of Oz. The greatest movie from the... Wait, was that from the 30s? Wow, that's old.
Casablanca. They like that.
People do.
Yeah.
But-
Asphalt
but if-
Jungle.
But I mean, it's a different type of experience, and I wouldn't recommend it for everyone.
Right.
Coming up, we're
Stuff.
going to talk... we're going to talk about the worst reviews on Amazon, as in 1-star reviews.
1-star reviews. Amazon All-Stars. Coming
Amazon All-Stars. I can't wait to read these.
Amazon All-Stars.
This is the first time we've ever tried doing Amazon All-Stars. Basically, what I did was I went to Amazon.com and I went to The Shining DVD and I went through and found as many of the entertaining 1-star reviews as I possibly could, and we're going to read them off right now. Most of them were just about the bad quality of the DVD. Why isn't this widescreen? Most of the reviews on top of that were... oh, this is nothing like the book, blah, 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 bitter book lovers, which is all a lot more reasonable than what I've found and what we're going to present right here. Jack, do you want to read one first?
Sure. And to let you all know, we may be doing these in different voices, and we are not making fun of people, but we are poking fun.
I'll be making fun. No, I mean, it's okay if you don't like The Shining. I don't actually have a problem with that. But if you're as dumb as some of this shit you're about to hear, sorry.
And the first review is one that we've heard quite a few times. Here it comes. Suck balls.
1 star.
That's a 1-star review.
A great take. Thank you.
All right, Nick, what do you got?
There should be a way to give this movie a minus 5-star rating. Aside from the 1999 movie The Haunting, this has to be the worst adaptation of a book I've ever seen. What's wrong with it? Everything. There are endless shots of little Danny riding his tricycle down hallways, captured with some Indian blanket patterned carpet. Why? Who the hell knows? There are multiple shots of a pair of little twin girls and a great tide of fakey-looking blood. Why? Again, who the hell knows? It's obvious that Kubrick never read the book, or if he had read it, he didn't get it. Or he saw it merely as an opportunity to make some obscure statement of his own that had nothing to do with the book.
This one is from Jack Nicholson. He writes, no plot development, no character development, just Jack Nicholson doing the same old gimmicky acting, while I find no charm, and it is always superfluous. Also, the music in the film overshadows every scene. That wasn't Jack Nicholson, really, but...
Wonderful.
Yeah. That wasn't a good impression of Jack Nicholson.
It wasn't.
I wasn't trying, really.
It's okay.
It's okay.
You also are not a professional.
I'm not.
Here's another one. This one I like because it's practical. It's hard to believe a hotel that size in Colorado would close in the winter with all the skiing business. 1 star.
I kind of agree with that. Give me that reviewer's name. I want to be friends with him.
No, I didn't take down
Or
the
her.
names. They're not worthy.
Okay. All right. Based on the ratings, you would almost think it's as good as The Godfather. Yet, in reality, this movie is not even as good as Ernest, E-A-R-N-E-S-T, Goes to Camp.
Ernest Goes to Camp.
Ernest. Yeah.
Ernest Goes to Camp.
Oh, autocorrect strikes again. I love it.
Oh, man.
Go on.
That's it? That's where it is? Oh,
That's
okay.
that's what I got there.
This one I'm reading verbatim. I'm not making up any of the dialogue.
Okay.
Sup, y'all? How is everybody doing this lovely Sunday? Well, earlier today I got irritated watching the NBA playoffs. Bucks should be the final winners all the way. So I decided to check Amazon for a good scary movie like Scary Movie 5, which is an all-time classic, by the way. And I stumbled across The Shining. The cover looked kind of cool, but that's about it. I literally fell asleep within 5 minutes. How is this movie considered horrifying or scary? The only horrifying and scary thing is the hype behind the movie. The only good thing about this movie was that it was free because Amazon gave me free video credits. For good scary movies, check out Scary Movie, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Scream, and anything with Barbara Streisand. Leave this shining movie in the clearance bin. I picture what's that meme, Good Guy Steve? I picture him leaving that review.
Wow. Did you know a real horror movie is one that makes look under the bed before turning off the light? And I'm reading it verbatim. And makes you pull up the comforter to cover your neck and ears before going to sleep. Nothing like this here. The scene in the bathroom, meant to be frightening, is just plain funny. Comic relief in a boring movie. Jack Nicholson is not convincing as a madman. What you see is just an actor trying to look frightening. His wife is good at screaming and being afraid, but somehow she doesn't manage to make you share her fear. That was a boring fucking review.
Dude, I love that it's like, here's an actor trying to look like a madman. Yeah. That's what all acting is. You describe the process of acting. Thank you.
Right.
All right, here we go with... I kind of like this one because they obviously didn't get the movie from Amazon, but they still wrote about it on Amazon. Here we go. I went to rent the remake of Friday the 13th, but the cashier told me to check out The Shining instead for some quality horror. I was skeptical, but approached it with an open mind, even though I knew it wasn't going to be as good as the Friday the 13th remake. Boo! This movie sucked. The things in it were so random, like the bear suit guy and the blood coming out of the stairs. They didn't even have to do with the plot. The acting was horrible, too. I was hoping Wendy would have been axed already so she'd finally shut up and get back in the kitchen.
Wow.
This movie is so unscary. I thought I'd never be scared again.
What an asshole.
Then I saw gems like Orgy of the Dead, Dead End Road, The Dentist, and Touristas, and realized that good horror films do exist. Just skip The Shining. I saw The Dentist.
The Corbin Burnson. That one's not too bad, actually.
Oh, I was hoping that she meant, the sequel.
Touristas.
Brother. Touristas. And also, this one does show a bit of a problem with what we had up until about 5 years ago when, like, Blockbuster and video stores went out of business. There was always the douchey cashier guy who was too pretentious of a film nerd and would, recommend the wrong movies to people because he was like, oh, this is true horror. You know him. You're picturing him in your mind right now as I'm talking about him. Are you not?
Yes.
That guy sucked.
All right. Ain't they beat this horse to death yet? This overblown, overhyped, overacted, and overdisturbed filmmaking debacle is now being released as a special 2-disc special edition. Pardon me while I play the grand piano. I'm not sure, but I think the movie lasts about 3 days. It's rated R for retarded.
Ouch.
Jesus Christ. Venom.
I have one last 1-star review that I found. I would rather watch a litter of puppies being thrown into a wood chipper than watch this abortion of a movie.
You got all the good ones.
I didn't even mean to. That was an accident.
I give your choices of 1-star reviews 1 star. I've got 2 more. This movie is very boring and quite pointless. Kids 11 to 15 will be bored out of their wits. I was not scared at all. I've seen bunny masks scarier than this sad excuse for a movie. That's
one of my favorite comments that I found in this whole thing. I've seen bunny masks that were scared. Why? What does that even mean?
I mean, have you ever seen a bunny mask? It's pretty scary.
But it's scarier than, I don't know.
If you watch Inland Empire, you'll see some scary bunny masks. Anyway, one more. I'll do the Terrible movie. So horrible, I'm actually taking the time to write a review. I'll keep it short and simple. First, the acting is horrible. 2, there's almost no plot. 3, extremely slow. 4, nothing happens. I could go on all day about how horrendous this movie is. Really wish I could get my $4 back. I guess he wants his $4. Yeah.
See, but I mean, a lot of that is what fascinates me about this movie is that, like, so many people could just walk into it and completely hate it.
Yeah, of course.
And I mean, it's been that way since the movie came out pretty much. But it's also, there is this other fascinating part that's like, why do people overhype this movie for their friends and be like, oh, it's so scary, it's all this, it's all that. It's not really, like, I mean, to me at least, this movie I don't feel scared by, like, at all, you know?
No, I wouldn't say it's scary. It's just, it's unsettling. That would describe it more than scary. Mm-hmm. I mean, some people do find it scary, and you know.
But I don't get it. It's just like maybe they don't like feeling unsettled, and for me, it's a delicious feeling.
Yeah. Same here. Depends on the day, though. Well, if you do like the Amazon 1-star reviews or the Amazon All-Stars, and you want us to continue it, let us know.
Please, any segment we do, just be like, no, that was a miss.
Yeah, if it sucks.
That's good. Do it again for every movie.
If you want us to do different voices, too, let us know. I don't feel like doing it tonight. I'm very exhausted. All right. So, Nick, how about we do some producing?
Yes, some remixing.
Yes. All right.
Put in our names on the album.
All right.
Horror movie reality mix.
What we're going to do is pitch an idea for a remake of the movie of the week. And this week it is The Shining. Later on, after Nick and I both pitch, we want you, the listener, to vote for which pitch you think is better. Would it be Nick or Jack? And the way you can vote on Twitter is #Jack or #Nick. One of them.
Sure.
Or, you know.
And just, find us. What are we on there? At Jack and Nick Show. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And, just tell us what you think of it. And also, you can go to our Facebook page, Jack and Nick Horror Show. Just look us up on Facebook. You'll find us. And because the other half of what we want you to do is we want you to take The Shining and come up with your own horror remix for it. Who do you think could have remade this? What cast would they have used? Write us a big, long dissertation about it on the Facebook post that we're going to post about it. And we're going to read some on the show next week. And hopefully you get yours in on time.
Right. And
if you next week, it's the week and a half, whatever, 2 weeks.
And then what's going to happen is Nick and I are going to pick the one that we feel is the best one.
Right. And you get a great no prize.
You get a great hug from us.
We don't have a budget yet.
Yeah. The prizes will be coming eventually.
Yeah, right.
There's going to be a tremendous episode coming eventually too, but we'll get to that one. That's going to be the prize one, the real prize one.
At any rate, though, let's talk about our remixes, show people how it's done, and then you people out there, think up your remix, take a couple of days, and then send it to us either on Facebook. Hell, if you have a short one, send it to us on Twitter and just be like, I think Steven Spielberg could do it. And we'll read it on the show because we have no class.
And if you had seen AI, you can see Steven Spielberg make a Stanley Kubrick movie.
Oh, yeah. That's totally true. Right. The AI version of, like if you could, like you take an SAT, what do you call those things where it's like, if this is to that. What is that? When they compare oh no. I forgot the word. Fuck it.
Here's my Shining remix. All right, director.
Analogies.
I'm going to say a director is going to be Panos Cosmatos.
Who the fuck is that?
His film was Beyond the Black Rainbow.
Oh yeah.
And I would say that, he definitely echoes Stanley Kubrick, but I think he'd bring a more terrifying spin on it. And I think it would be even more unsettling. I mean, his movie is a slow fucking burn, Beyond the Black Rainbow. But I think that he would definitely make something really cool with it. And he would make something cool with it with this cast. And here's who I have chosen. I'll go from Jack down to Dick. I got Jack, Wendy, Danny, and Dick. Okay. Jack Torrance, Michael Keaton. Ever since Birdman and Michael Keaton's on the comeback, I think Michael Keaton would be able to portray Jack Torrance very well because he does crazy very well. Mm-hmm. And if you want to see him acting nuts, watch Batman or watch Pacific Heights. You'll see Michael Keaton being an evil bastard. But the way I see this would be if Panos were to get Michael Keaton to be Jack Torrance, you can make it a little bit different where he would be a college professor that fell in love with his student, and his student, he married. His wife, Wendy Torrance, is played by Sarah Silverman. And Sarah Silverman can play straight really well, and could play... You haven't really seen Sarah Silverman play terrified. Mm-hmm. And I think she would be good as...
That's an interesting pick.
Yeah, I think she would be good as Wendy. Danny Torrance, I would say just a newcomer to be named later. Anytime you have a kid, I'm not good at kid actors, so fuck it. Right. Dick Halloran. I would say Wesley Snipes makes his comeback in this film. You shave Wesley's head, Wesley Snipes can act his ass off. See New Jack City, and also see White Man Can't Jump. The guy can act, and I think that him playing that role would be a great choice. That is all I have. I'm not going to choose score or anything else. I just wanted to go with director and actors. So, Nick, the ball is in your court.
Okay. For my remix of The Shining, I'm going to go with what would be a pretty obvious pick if you know me. I'll take Rob Zombie. Now, I might do this for every horror remix I ever do.
The funny thing is, as you're saying this, or as I was writing mine, I said Nick's choosing Rob Zombie. I just knew it.
It's because a long time ago on another podcast that we were on, we reviewed Lords of Salem. And I was like, you know what? If he made The Shining like this movie, it would be kick-ass. Because that is a perfect example of a sort of surreal movie where you can't tell how much of it's really happening and all that. It is a slow burn. It is about a descent into madness. And it has phantasmagoric, fucked up visuals. Isn't that what we came here for? Maybe. And I think that, like, in terms of the visuals, it would far surpass the insanity that we see in this movie of The Shining that exists. It would be much more, well, I mean, bloodier, gorier, more nudity. Basically everything that you want from a horror movie. It'd be all that turned up to 10 or 11. And then you would have the regular Rob Zombie cast, because you can't get away from that. Once you have a guy who has the same cast every movie, he's just going to do it. Okay, fine. Sherry Moon Zombie gets to be Shelley Long.
He gets to be
Scatman Carruthers will be played by Sid Haig.
So wait a minute. Sherry Moon Zombie is going to be playing Shelley Duvall, who's playing Wendy Torrance in this movie?
Yeah, sure.
That's cool.
Okay. The one person who would be an out-of-type Rob Zombie actor, replace Jack Nicholson, since he's too old and too decrepit, with Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who is he's a threatening and intense guy, you know? Mm-hmm. I don't know if anybody knows who he is, so I'm just going to say he's the comedian in Watchmen. He was in that
Supernatural.
He was in Possession that came out a couple of years ago.
He's Javier Bardem's twin brother.
Right. He's going to be playing Negan or Negan. I don't know how you actually say his name because I've never heard it pronounced. I've only read it on the page. In the Walking Dead TV show, he's going to be playing Negan, however you say it. I always said Negan, but he's like the next villain. They've only really had like 2 major villains in the Walking Dead comic, and other than the governor, he's it. So that's going to be pretty great. And I think he's really an underrated actor. He's just he's intense, and he is big enough to take like a more threatening. He cuts an imposing figure, is what I'm saying. He's 6'2". Compared to Sherry Moon Zombie, he'd look like someone who could rip her apart with his bare hands. This is more important to me because, like, I'm a big dude myself. I'm 6'1". I weigh over 300 pounds. I'm just big and scary looking. People have told me multiple times, Nick, you look like a serial killer. You look like a monster. You look like a grizzly bear. You look like a Bigfoot. Yeah, I've heard it my whole fucking life, you know? Mm-hmm. To those people, I am that way. So when I need something, someone to be, like, threatening, I can't look, as I said, you know, a couple of episodes ago when we watched Halloween 2, I can't watch a skinny Michael Myers. I want a big hulking Michael Myers. It's why I always like Jason better than Michael Myers, in fact. I like someone who can kind of be hulking and feel like a threat to me. So that's who I'd pick. And I mean, you know, it's hard to, you know, even in being a father and a husband who's a giant, you know, you feel like that gentle giant so much of the time that you don't realize when, you know, you're angry at someone, especially like, you know, just being a regular person around the house. If you yell about something, it can scare your kid, you know? Mm-hmm. You know, even if it's completely unrelated. I found that out when my son was very young because I was just like yelling at like the TV or something that happened. I think I was watching NASCAR and there was a crash and I was just like, what are you doing? And like he bawled for maybe a half hour. So, and that was like years ago. Now he's 2. And, you know, I feel like if I had to get into like a shouting match with someone or go around chasing them with an axe, it would be quite scary. But even scarier than me would be someone who's in much better shape and is an imposing fellow like Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Oh, you want to know who'd play Danny? I don't really have anybody in mind, so let's just get the guy who played the little like squid monster dude who was like a little person in The Lords of Salem. Take him out of the suit and dress him up like a boy.
Okay. I was going to suggest your own son.
For the score, you can have John Five, who's in Rob Zombie's band, craft a mysterious score. His solo stuff is sometimes really great. He wrote a lot of haunting music for Lords of Salem. Basically, it would just be like a colorful... It would be the modern version of The Shining in every respect because it would be more gratuitous and violent. It would be more ridiculous, and it would also be more polarizing because you would have some people who, like me, who would just be like, this is self-indulgent and ridiculous, and I love it. And then you'd have so many people that are just like, this is awful. You know, Rob Zombie ruined my childhood.
Yep. Well, I mean, they say that all the time anyway. So.
Right. Especially about Rob Zombie.
Now, who would play Dick?
Which one's Dick?
Just wanted you to say that.
Which one's
that
Dick?
was Scatman Crothers.
Oh, I said Sid Haig plays...
Oh, Sid Haig. Oh, okay.
No. Sid Haig plays Scatman Crothers, plays Dick.
So, Sid Haig playing Scatman Crothers playing Dick Halloran.
Right.
Okay.
And if you needed it to be a black guy... just because, you know,
Ken
people
Foree,
might get upset. Yeah. Exactly. Will you let me finish my sentences?
Sorry.
Obviously. Well, no, you know what? Ken Foree's not really right for the part. He's just not. Like, when you want that type of, like, friendly, but also seems like he could be crazy, you got to go with Sid Haig. You wanted me to point out the scene that's perfect? A perfect scene in a perfect movie is in Devil's Rejects when he steals that woman's car. Oh, yeah. Possibly the greatest scene in horror history, where he goes from being a nice clown, you know, but then he suddenly got some important clowning business to get to. Did I fucking stutter? Watch that scene. Go to YouTube right now and just look up clown business. I guarantee it will be one of the first videos that comes up, and it is a perfect scene. And like to be that type of like, look at Scatman Crothers in this movie. He is, totally a nice guy, just walking around, happy guy, leading them through and showing them the ice cream stuff, right? And then, he's talking to Danny on the side and he's like, I know you can hear me. Now, what if, like, just for a moment there, let's say that Danny couldn't actually hear him, right?
Right.
Scatman Crothers is insane.
Yeah.
and Danny is scared out of his wits.
He's a creepy old man. That's what he is.
That would be fucking wonderful, man. So Sid Haig's that guy.
All right.
Although he might be kind of old now. Let's go with Sid Haig 10 years ago.
We can still go with Sid Haig. Why not?
Okay.
All right. So that is our remixes. And again, yes, definitely submit your remixes yourself on the Jack and Nick Horror Show Facebook page and give us a like and give us your synopsis and your vote on there, and also Twitter. Please, on Twitter, give us your vote. Hashtag Jack or hashtag Nick, whichever one you like. And then we can gloat the following episode.
Right. And, I'm sorry that we didn't have any sort of participation this week, but now you see why. We had to give you the instruction manual for your participation next week.
Correct. Yes.
So I don't know what movie we're going to do, but we'll do the different movie, and then we'll talk about your shining remixes.
That is it. Shining. Over.
I hope you all like this. I hope that we're on the right track with what we're doing here. Again, this podcast is just part of a big project that we have in mind. So hopefully you are telling people about this. Your horror fan friends who like podcasts, tell them Jack and Nick are working on something. Share this show where you can. Give us a like. Subscribe to us. For the love of God, follow us around.
Thank you very much for listening, and the we definitely appreciate the feedback on Twitter. We created the show as well to interact with everybody rather than just not. We like interacting with our listeners, and it really feels a lot. It just feels really good. It's a good feeling to have people that will keep coming back to us, and we get to talk to you, and I really do love that part of the show.
Right. I mean, more than the stuff we've done online before, I feel like we're really taking this ride with everybody, and I think it's because we've gotten so much support so quickly. And I almost feel bad about asking for more, but realistically, I know that we're never going to be anything at all if we don't get help. So thank you.
That's okay.
Didn't mean you.
Yeah, but yes, thank you very much for listening, and thank you for your for being interactive and communicating with us. We really do appreciate it. At least I appreciate it. I don't know about Nick. He's kind of.
I love it. Come find us on Twitter.
Yes, come find us on Twitter.
At Jack and Nick Show.
At Jack and Nick Show. You can follow me at JacobK666, and you can follow Nick at
New Jersey Nick. At New Jersey Nick. At New Jersey Nick.
I mean, you have to do it 3 times. It's at New Jersey Nick AT.
And follow me 3 times. I need that follower count to go up, baby. Come on.
Yeah.
If you want to hear about pro wrestling, video games, it's all out there, man. In fact, you can find me on YouTube, as well as this show. Jack and Nick Horror Show is on YouTube. Look us up, follow us there. If it's more like, I picture that as like you're in your office and you can't listen to your phone or whatever, so you got to put on the computer and you just plug in and listen to us on YouTube. Maybe, I don't know, maybe not. Or you could look up my gaming channel, New Jersey Nick. Just look me up on YouTube. I play modern and retro gaming stuff, so check me out. And
share your thoughts with about The Shining with us. Feel free to let us know what you think of it, because I mean it's a movie that has polarized views. People think it's a classic, others think it's just okay, and some people give it 1-star reviews on Amazon. So
right. So that's it, man.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. We'll see you on the next episode.
Good night.
Good night.